the COYGIG Pod
on Off the Ball
in association with Cadbury, official snack partner of the Republic of Ireland women's national team.
Katie McCabe, a huge goal.
I'm very proud of the team's performance.
We're going to go out there to beat them. We're going to try and beat them.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the COYGIG podcast. I'm Kathleen McNamee and I am joined as ever by league-winning captain Karen Duggan. Karen, I'm sure that doesn't get any less fun to hear every time we do a podcast.
Never. Keep it coming.
Well, we have to say congratulations to you because you were winning big awards on Thursday.
I was at the League Awards on Thursday, in Clontarf Castle.
Looking very
nice
snappy.
Occasion. Yeah, nice occasion. Thursday in Clontarf, bit of a keeps you under wraps a little bit, which is probably no harm.
Yeah,
obviously.
Well, didn't
stop me going to Coppers, but it kept some people under wraps.
Well, I'm glad you managed to get there because I was supposed to go to them and then I got not caught, but like I couldn't go across town with everything that was happening. And my boyfriend actually works like in a pub that's right beside O'Connell Street, the Oval, and there was just like a line of riot police outside it for the entire day. So I was like, I think I'm going to give this one a miss, but I am sorry I did not have the opportunity to have that celebratory clink with you. We will do it another time. But yeah, another great night for Peamount. They just seemed to oncoming, even with the Players Awards themselves last week. Quite a few nominations your way. I think Player of the Year was one of the ones that you were nominated for, was it?
Yeah. No, it was great. Sive Dial got Player of the Year, which is thoroughly deserved. I mean, if you're talking about any of the big moments throughout the year and that really kind of stand out for me, like Sive getting a winner against Shelburne, Sive getting a winner against Shamrock Rovers, it doesn't really get bigger than those moments. And they're standout ones, and she's just one of these players who you love playing with, so it's great to see someone like her getting so much recognition. And obviously James O'Callaghan getting Manager of the Year, because like I say, it wasn't an easy one to stick with us this year given how much uncertainty there was around it, but his enthusiasm and just it was so infectious, from the beginning of the year, how much he wanted to take on the challenge, and it filtered its way down through the squad. So for that alone and what that brought Peamount, I think he was deserving of his award as well. So it was great to see him recognised. And then there was a couple of recognitions for people in the community, in the club as well. And obviously they're the backbone of everything, and they've really had the hardest year of us all just to allow us to survive in Peamount. So for Katie and Eileen to be recognised there, it was really lovely. It was lovely to just be able to celebrate those people who have meant so much to us throughout the year. And I know a lot of people felt the same way. Other girls getting on Team of the Year who maybe haven't made it before and stuff. It's a really nice occasion.
And as you say as well, like, it's, you kind of expect the players to get their plaudits, whether that's the big trophy at the end of the year or, nominations for things like that. It's actually very rarely you do get to celebrate those volunteers who give up so much of their time. And I know they do it for the love of the club, but it is really nice that there is that space and opportunity to kind of say, no, actually, this team wouldn't exist without all that help and support. So delighted that you guys had that opportunity. It sounded like it was a really good night. And then of course the podcast as well got highly commended at the podcast awards. So it wasn't just you, Karen, that was winning stuff last night. We all had like a little hat tip, which was very nice. And we do appreciate everyone who supports the podcast. We won't get to go to these fun awards and things if it wasn't for that. And even nicer recognition as well of some of the stuff that Peamount did this season is probably going into the international break and having a few familiar faces around there, particularly some young guns being called up, Karen. I know there's not a lot riding on these next two games, but I suppose for Eileen Gleeson, there's like what the legacy of her tenure has been. She'll want to come out with like a clean sheet. To play in Windsor Park, which is always an interesting place to go to. So I think people will be expecting to probably see some of those young faces getting a bit of playing time, but also come out the other side with the win.
Yeah, just for context, people know that Peamount have 3 players in the squad. We've got Erin McLaughlin, who is, she's still very, very young, but is looking out for Ellen Dolan, 17, and Freya Healy, who's just gone 16. And you're talking about Eileen's legacy and things like that. And obviously there was a lot of talk during the week about the men's side and the legacy that would be left behind by Stephen Kenny. And his big thing was blooding new players, but he blooded them at a time where we needed results, and we needed those results to qualify for a major tournament. We've already put ourselves in a great position to qualify for a major tournament, and Eileen's blooding these players now with that in mind. So in 2 years' time, these players could potentially be at that level. I don't think anyone's saying that they're the finished product now, but they have show so much potential, and we see it, and they have really, really good attitudes. And I think that's really important for someone in their age, and they're going to go into that camp and they're going to get to see the levels that your Louise Quinns, your Katie McCabe's are playing at. And then they can bring that back and say, okay, here's what I need to do over the next 18 months to get to that level. And I think that's a fantastic thing. And I think that Eileen's done it in the right way now that we've already won the group, and these are 2 free hits essentially.
And you said it yourself, even you've talked so much about having that representation in the league and what it means in terms of players who want to maybe stay around in the league for a couple of years, get an education, you know, experience what Irish football has to offer, and then maybe look abroad to travel and have all that footballing experience. But getting that nod from the national side when you're already playing here is really important too.
Yeah, and I'm a huge advocate of us continuing to not just look beyond the league to supplement our Irish team. I think there's various reasons why people are in our team, and we've got so many talented teenagers coming through that it's not a surprise that they're still in our league, because they're actually too young to go anywhere else. And like I said, I still think that it takes time to develop, and doing that at home while you're getting your education rather than going sitting on the bench somewhere. I think it's huge, not only just for development. You can say, okay, they go abroad and they play pro and maybe their development will be better in that way, but confidence is a huge thing, and game time is a huge thing. And I think that, yeah, we just shouldn't be dismissive of our league, because I'm seeing the talent that's coming through. There's evidence of that now in this current squad, which is fantastic. And hopefully that motivates more and more people in the league this year to kind of say, right, it's definitely possible. There's a pathway there. We have to preface this by saying there will be a new manager in place. So God knows what they want. God knows what their relationship with Irish football will be like. But we'll still champion them on this podcast anyway. We'll still be rooting for our girls here to make an impact there, because I do think that they will do that even if they are teenagers. There's enough talent there coming through.
Oh, yeah, and I definitely think, like you've pointed to it continually throughout the entire year, that particularly for those younger players, how important it is getting in there. And, you know, you see even some of the underage teams, they've had like great success already this year, but it's just that little bit different being in that atmosphere. Like even I saw Caitlin Hayes talking today about the fact that her and Erin McLaughlin have been rooming together, and like how Erin's kind of been taking Caitlin through, you know, how the Irish setup is. And I was like, this is kind of funny because Erin is so young still, but also Caitlin saying that she's been able to talk to her about, you know, her experiences at Celtic and different clubs. So even just little bits like that, just players rooming with each other, you don't know what you pick up.
It's huge. And like, I don't think there was never an international camp that I went into when I wasn't somewhat nervous, because you want it so badly. You want to impress so badly. So being comfortable in that environment allows you to put your best foot forward in training. So that's a huge thing to get used to at whatever age you are. It does take a few camps to get settled. And now we've brought in some more players throughout this campaign. Hopefully they will feel more settled when we do go into those more crunch ties as we look towards qualification for Euro 25.
Definitely. And so apart from getting those young players through, is there anything else you expect out of these next 2 games? Obviously Hungary in Tala on Friday, and then Northern Ireland in Windsor Park on Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, no, really it is more of the same, and we'll go into it now, but we're seeing a lot more appearances in the WSL, and you know, the girls are really in the thick of their season now, so we'll be expecting performances to be even nearly at a higher level again than what we've seen in previous camps, because there's a lot of girls really flying in their club scene. And we had a little bit of a slow start against Hungary the first day. Hopefully we can knock that out. Again, more clean sheets, keep Courtney Brosnan's kind of star shining, because she deserves that, because she's been brilliant. Yeah, it's hard to say. It's just more of the same, giving players more game time, but obviously wanting the win as well. But I do think because we've qualified now, I'd forgive Eileen for changing things up even earlier in games to get girls experience. I think that's, while it might not be what fans want to see and they want to see 5 or 6, 7 goals, what I would like to see now is like really having an eye on future development.
Well, so long as we don't see the sort of rain that we saw in Budapest,
Yeah,
I think everyone will be
definitely,
pretty happy
because I'm going to be in Tala on Friday and I'm too precious for that.
Yeah, well, you'll be in the nice RTE studio, so you'll be fine.
Oh yeah, the nice RT studio and the scoreboard. Yeah.
It's always fun just to wave
The
up
glamour of it all.
behind the scenes, guys. You're so lucky. Well, it is just myself and Karen tonight, so we will be bringing you your team of the week, which will be a slightly shortened version because I do not have the capacity that Emma Carroll does to all the games. It is a struggle, and she is a pro and an ace, and we look forward to welcoming her back very, very soon. And then we will also, as Karen said, be taking you through all the WSL action. So it's all the usual stuff, just two slightly different figures doing it solo for once. The COYGIG Pod on Off the Ball is brought to you by Cadbury, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland women's national team. Coming up next, we have our team of the week. Now, so we have our team of the week, which I somehow managed to volunteer into doing because I forgot to ask Karen earlier in the week if we could split it. I only realized last night. So yeah, I won't lie, this is definitely not the sort of detail that Emma Carroll normally puts into her team of the week with her multiple screens, but this is the best I could do with it being my birthday weekend and me not fully paying attention.
We forgive you.
Thank you.
Also, I had a hen party, so I can't really complain because I don't know either.
Yeah. I'm getting old and forgetful, and you're still out partying. So that's basically
pretty much.
So in goal, I went for Mary Earps, and then back Parasite, Bonner, Greenwood, Uabi, and then Hemp, Cooney Cross, Lauren James, Shaw, Hogg,
Sure,
and Mead. Just because I got slightly emotional when I saw her score that first goal back after so long, and the entire team just descending on her. And
yeah,
I mean, it was a really well taken goal as well. You can't deny that, and it's great that she got the two. But I just thought it was such a beautiful moment that she finally got that goal after so long.
Yeah, I would definitely start with her. Obviously, it was emotional, but just seeing her back playing as well, I do think her set piece deliveries, even she has so much to contribute to that team. And yeah, the way she took that first goal, just completely like she was never away, stood up to defender, shifted it onto her weaker foot and pinged it in top corner. So for her to get any goal, even if it hit off her baby toe, I think we would put her in team of the week just because of the significance of it after being away for a year essentially. But to do it in the manner she did, she deserves her place on team of the week.
She was the one person that Emma Carroll did text me from Brussels being like, if she's not in the team of the week, we have issues. No problem. That's no problem.
Yeah, I think your 4-3-3 was a good shout because it allowed you to essentially put 5 attackers in.
Basically,
we'll call Hemp and James. We'll call them midfielders.
Yeah.
But again, they were standout players. Hemp, I think, is growing into the season game on game. And James is terrifying. She's
so good, and she's so young. Her technical ability is
terrifying,
insane. And I don't know if people have fully caught on to it yet, because I know there's stuff like the World Cup incident and maybe the Champions League last couple of years where she hasn't fully. But I'm if you're watching her in the league week in, week out, there are some crinks that she needs to iron out a little bit, but that just comes with experience.
But that's if she earns them out, she's the perfect player. There is we're asking for her to get to perfection. And what age is she? 20, 21? Yeah. I don't know.
21, I think.
She's incredible. She's 2-footed. She's powerful. Yeah, of course, she can get better at tracking back or whatever, but I wouldn't even cage a player like that. She's so good. And then I think this is the first appearance for Cooney Cross, is it?
I think it is. And it was kind of a mixture of, I've been really impressed when she has played recently, and I think she's settling into the role a bit more. I thought the vision for the Beth Mead assist was really good. Admittedly, Sissoko did really stand off Mead, and I think that gave her a bit of space to kind of take the pass in. But I think for a young player, she's settling into that role really nicely.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I like the way she does everything. She's confident enough to get on the ball and does the simple thing really well. And it's such an underestimated, but it's every team needs that in a six. You know, every team needs someone who's willing to get on the ball and do those little passes and has that vision. So she's deputized brilliantly in there as well, I have to say. So yeah, I'd agree with that. Again, Bunny Shaw, we were waiting for her to spring into life a little bit in the WSL, and she has certainly done that in the last couple of weeks.
So funny, like we say that, and then I saw someone at the weekend being like, that was her 6th hat trick in the WSL.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who is this woman?
Yeah, she's unstoppable when she gets going. Like, obviously you can look at some of the Spurs defending, but like you give her an inch and she scores. But I don't know how you can defend against that. I mean, you've got Hemp putting in unbelievable crosses and Kelly, and even if you are fully gung-ho and I'm attacking this ball, Bunny Shaw will get there before you, and if she doesn't get there before you and hits you, you're in trouble as well. So yeah, she's back. The only one I would possibly have maybe an eyebrow who is Mary Earps, because I guess Man United were expected to win that game. What's impressive, I suppose, is that she kept her concentration and pulled off a really good save to bottom post, and she did step up the couple of times she was needed. I actually thought the Bristol keeper Clark was very, very good.
I did actually have her as my
partly do with Man United's finishing. Yeah, but yeah, she had a really good first half and kept Bristol in the game for a long time, as did, I guess, a lot of their defenders.
Yeah. I think there was like 3 different ones that were very near goals that she all saved. Like I know Paris was one, Galton, and can't remember who the third one was.
Yeah, well, like she's going to be called upon a lot this year, so we might sneak her into team with the week at some point if Bristol can get themselves another win. But yeah, I think Emma Byrne will be happy to see Uhabi in there. She's a big fan, and obviously she was setting up goals, and yeah, she's a top player. So I think you did a great job, Kathleen.
Thank you very much, Karen. I do appreciate that. Yeah, no, I find it funny when I like listen to you and Emma talk, and you pick out like certain players, and then I find myself like watching them more closely in the next game, and I'm like, am I watching them as closely because they're performing well, or has Emma Byrne like put something in my head where I'm like, I need to remember this? But yeah, no, I will be happy to hand the reins back to Emma Carroll for Team of the Week because it is stressful, but I'm glad you approve. And we will talk a little bit more about the players coming up next when we dive into the WSL. Now, so it was quite an interesting weekend with some results that weren't entirely expected in terms of how comprehensive they were in their wins. In particular, looking at Chelsea on paper, 5-2 Leicester looks kind of run-of-the-mill, but it wasn't actually really all that run-of-the-mill. And then obviously you have that absolutely humongous scoreline of Man City 7, Tottenham 0. And sadly, we have also seen the introduction of teams posting statements apologizing to fans. Yeah, Tottenham posted.
I haven't seen that. I think I have a blocker on my Twitter for things like that. Who is doing that?
The
Spurs?
whole Spurs. So the like official site or whatever it was posted a statement apologizing, saying it wasn't a reflection on their season and that, you know, they promised to do much better for fans. And then the only player I actually saw retweeting it was Ashley Neville, just kind of saying, you know, apologies to the fans again and stuff. And I was like, no, I know it was a terrible result, but we don't need this in the WSL.
No, save that one for your Man United men's. It's just unnecessary. People can have bad games. It doesn't define their season. I actually like Spurs still tried to play the game that they've been trying to play all season, and they've been pretty good. I mean, I think they've been pretty good. I've enjoyed watching them more. They play a bit more of a risky game because they're trying to play it out, and sometimes they did get it out against City, but City's press was absolutely brilliant. And if you look at City's team, it's always going to be risky doing that against the likes of Shaw and Hemp and Kelly, and you've got Uhabi coming in and Roord coming in as well, and it was a risky game, and City were unbelievably clinical. So it's not statement worthy. It was a horrible, horrible defeat, but it's something that I think Spurs under this management can take on the chin and learn from, I would say. I don't know what you think about it.
No, I agree. And like, you even look at, say, the run of form that Aston Villa have had so far this season. And I know, like, manager and players have all come out and said at different times, we're sorry for how we've done. But like, I think that's fine in like post-match situations or pre-match press conferences. You're obviously going to have to be like, sorry guys, things aren't going all that well. But it's when you see the official accounts come out with the statements, I'm just like, no, that's unnecessary. And like, when you look at the team they were up against, like, yeah, Spurs results have been fine, but they're also, when you look at the team that City have, I'm not entirely surprised that they were able to dismantle them in the way they were, because they have such technically gifted players in the likes of Ruud and Hemp, who we chat about in the team of the week. And also just like Bunny Shaw, like I think she scored a hat-trick against them last season as well. So she clearly has their measure, and City did their homework really well, knew exactly what to do. And Spurs just like weren't up to the task on this particular occasion. But yeah, big no from Kathleen to any sort of statements like that in the future.
Yeah, and it was just one of those games where, I mean, City were really, really good. They've obviously bounced back from the two defeats that they had a few weeks ago, and they're picking back up their form again. And when they're on form, they're probably the best team to watch when they're on form, because it's just so free flowing. It's organized from the back all the way out, the way they move the ball, and they're ruthless, and they got to use their bench. You saw Coombs coming on, scoring a couple of goals as well. And by that point, Spurs were just so deflated and dejected. Spurs need to get tighter at the back. They need to get tighter players in the box. It was a little bit easy for City to get those goals, but I mean, it was one of those days where Lauren Hemp was amazing and Bunny Shaw was amazing, and on the best of days, it's hard to defend against them, but they were next level,
I find Coombs so interesting because I feel like she pops up just every so often, gets a couple of goals, and then disappears for a little while.
Yeah, you kind of forget she's there, and then she comes in and pulls out something that like City really need at the time, which was what she did last season for them when they were in dire need. She was a big feature of their play. So this season, obviously, City named an unchanged team this week from the United game. So maybe we're seeing a bit of a flip in how Man City work, and that'll lead to a more consistent City, and she will be a bench player, but probably be no harm for City generally.
Well, no, and definitely with the way they're going this year, like you have to say that they're still in that race, even though those few losses did kind of throw them back a bit.
But it's tight. Like it's I know we're only 8 games in, but it's very, very tight up there. And like you say, Spurs are 4 points off them, despite having this thrashing. So things can change really, really quickly for a team in terms of gaining momentum and in terms of losing it.
Yeah, this is why I really feel like for a couple of years they should have like 2 up, 1 down in the WSL, because there's not enough teams and there's not enough games, and not that there's not enough games. Like I agree with people like Emma Hayes when she says, about the requirements of, say, Chelsea with Champions League and all that sort of stuff. But I'm like, in terms of the league, I feel like we're not going to get teams to properly develop without giving them more opportunities to develop across like a wider range of teams. And I think we've seen, like, say, Leicester this season, how well they're doing. You look at how well, like, I actually, despite the results, I've really enjoyed watching Bristol this season. And I think there's like quite a few teams in that championship that could really give some of those teams a bit of a run for their money, and then also allows for a bit of development, even if it was just for 2 or 3 years. But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, sadly. But if the FA are listening, I back it.
I'm sure they are. But like Leicester, then, like, they started so well. Obviously, they're going through a tough run of form, but they came up against Chelsea. So,
well, and like, you look at the scoreline and it says 5-2, but for like 50 minutes of that, they were doing really, really well. And then Chelsea just pulled away with the absolute like class that is Lauren James, and then a really well taken goal by Aggie Beaver Jones, like one of the other younger players, and Sam Kerr doing what Sam Kerr does. But You know,
We haven't seen Chelsea be conceding that many goals, and they got 2 against them. Like they're one of the teams that are, I kind of like watching Leicester.
yeah, they're just really intriguing to me, especially this year. And I kind of I half worry that they're going to do what like Spurs do some seasons, where they get off to this brilliant start and then they kind of taper away towards the end or the middle of the season because they just don't really have the players that are there. But I do feel like they're building quite a smart team there. And even if this is a season, like I wouldn't be worried about them in terms of a relegation battle or anything at the moment. I think that
One draw in the last 5, though.
yeah, but I also just feel like they kind of pull out interesting results when they need it compared to some of the other ones. True. And I think they have the experience of that relegation battle last season, whereas Bristol don't. And I'd honestly be kind of sad to see either of them go, which is why I'm like, let's do our 2 up, 1 down, and then like they'll get more options. But yeah, and like I suppose it hasn't been like a mad difficult run of form for them. I thought they had some tougher games, but like that win against Aston Villa, you would have thought that maybe with Aston Villa's form, they would have been able to get something against them. Beat West Ham, which is fairly impressive. And then Arsenal, you know, Chelsea as well. It's not a clean sweep sort of form. Man City just before that. So
yeah,
you know.
I hope they're not involved in the relegation fight. Obviously, they played Chelsea this week. Chelsea are just really clinical. I think Emma Hayes was just really happy after the game with what they were like going forward. She wasn't too bothered about conceding the 2 goals just because of how much games they've had to obviously go through in the last little while as well. But Chelsea are really putting people to the sword this year. I know we don't tend to laud their forward play a huge amount because a lot of it's pretty straightforward. But I mean, to already have +9 goals, I think, on Arsenal, it's pretty impressive the way they're putting teams away.
Yeah,
and the different goal scorers, like you mentioned there, like you'd Beaver Jones, like you'd obviously James, but they're coming from quite a few areas when they need them. Sam Kerr back in the mud goals as well.
Congratulations to her as well on her recent engagement, Chris Mewis. But yeah, I think as well it's something that City have also pointed out, and Gareth Taylor has pointed out a couple of times, is that like range of goal scorers and how important it is. And I know Emma Hayes was talking about it after the Paris FC match and how like unfair the schedule was, and like it is a lot, and if you're going to have that in place, you know you need the proper systems and supports. But you also look at the players, like they're able to rotate. They made 4 changes at the weekend and they brought in Sophie Ingle, Perisset, Fran Kirby and Maren Meld. You know, it's not a bad quadruple of people to bring in.
They're not in the worst position to be the team playing the most amount of matches.
Yeah, like if it was City or Arsenal in that position, I'd be more worried about depth than I would be for Chelsea. Like I do think they have the squad that can take that sort of pressure, but we shall see how it goes. I also thought it was mad that they only won 30% of their duels in the first half, which like really shows how much Bristol were putting it to them. That's what Emma Hayes said post game, and she's like, it's the lowest for our first half in the last like 2 seasons or something. She's like, I haven't seen that sort of performance, especially from the caliber of players that we have out there. So it was pretty impressive from Leicester to like get that out of them.
And these are probably things that Leicester can focus on and say, yeah, these are bad results, but not let it get them down, I guess. And there's positives to take from their play, whereas I think someone like Villa and West Ham, you're so struggling to find the positives. Some of it. West Ham in particular, I mean, playing against Arsenal and to just cough up goals the way they kind of did. You wouldn't say that Arsenal had to work too hard for their 3 goals.
No, definitely not. And even putting the 2 players in the team of the week, I would feel slightly bad because it did feel like the West Ham ones were just standing off them a lot of the time, and they weren't really looking to, I don't know, press down on them or make them feel.
They didn't play particularly badly, but they're just making mistakes at the wrong times, and you're kind of looking at them, and they're a team that I know we're only going into December, but are they the team you think that really needs to have a strong January transfer window? Because they're very young, and we talk about lack of depth at the top, but there's seems to be a lack of depth in West Ham.
But I think I saw that, like, for comparison of the two benches, like the average age of West Ham was something like 20, and the average, or that could be the squad, the average was like 28 for Arsenal. And then for the compared appearances, it was something like 95 appearances for West Ham average compared to 280 something for Arsenal. So like there was extreme levels of inexperience on show.
And if they're going to find themselves in a relegation battle, as talented as these young players are, would you be looking to the Championship for some more experienced players, people who have WSL experience, and try and bring them in to just steady the ship a little bit?
I think you'd have to. Like, I know, we have quite a few players on that bench. We had Jessie Stapleton and Izzy Atkinson. They were all on the bench at the weekend as well. So, but we know ourselves, like, those are sort of players that if we were looking at them from an international perspective, you still want to be giving them time. Like, Jessie's just back from injury. Jessie Stapleton's been injured the last while too. Izzy Atkinson is still like working out, I think, what she's most comfortable with and what her best position is for both teams. And
it's still a great experience for them. They're still playing WSL. It's a fantastic experience for them being involved in a relegation battle. It'll stand them as well. It's something they'll have never had to go through in the Irish League, because they always played for the top teams as well. So it's great experience, but we do want to see them getting more and more game time. I'm just saying, from West Ham perspective, they probably do need to have a strong transfer window and see if they get backing for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's great to see actually that they are getting as much game time, like both Izzy Atkinson and Jessie came on at the weekend, and they have kind of been consistently either starting or coming on. So more of that, please. But as we said, the main thing, the only thing you need to think about from that Arsenal game is Beth Mead scoring, and everyone going absolutely delighted for her. We chatted a bit about it, but Bristol, Man United, 2-0 win. It was kind of like, it sounded, from what I saw of the game, it looked like United were comfortable, but it did also look like the Bristol City were frustrating them for large parts of the game.
Yeah, they really did. The first half, Bristol are good. They're organised. Obviously, they're the underdog going into every single game, so they set up like that. They've the block of four in midfield. They've got a tight back five there as well. Megan Connolly marshalling them really well. I saw she picked up player of the match for Bristol at the weekend, so that was obviously great to see from her. It also shows the pressure that they come under in every game, that she's in the centre of defence and she's doing that. But it took a deflection from a shot from distance from Miyazawa to get United off the mark, and they, even after that, the floodgates could have opened, but they didn't for Bristol. Again, United not being able to switch things up in the way that other teams are, and not being as relentless as other teams. But Ella Toone had a good game. She was kind of pulling strings, but as a United fan, you want to see her getting on the score sheet more as well, because she is that big player. Same with Galton. They were popping up with some really important goals last year, and we haven't seen a huge amount of it this year. I think United are still clicking a little bit and figuring out their best. I like Emma said before, I do think Jay-Z looks more threatening when she comes in off the right. So then there's a centre forward kind of gap there potentially.
Yeah, it was funny when I was looking at this game for the team of the week, two of the names you mentioned there, Toone and Connolly as well, because I was like, she does do such a good job. And a bit like with Clark in goal, I just felt like I couldn't, because it was another loss for them. But I also was like,
yeah, it was, and like United should have scored more and didn't. So it is hard on both ends. So don't beat yourself up too much.
I'm
just
not
beat yourself up for this week, and then Emma will be back.
Yeah. Well, we have a little international break, so we'll be able to all have a nice little break and hopefully watch Ireland score lots of goals. And how are you feeling about United at this stage? Because, like, I suppose how we expected them to come into this, you would have maybe thought that they would be putting more than just two past Bristol, especially considering the amount of chances they had. I know there was some heroics in it, but you would also argument that there should be better finishing there, and that has been a problem for United all season.
Just based off the games I've seen this season, I'm more resigned to the fact that we might be in a battle with Liverpool for fourth than looking at the top three. just in terms of fluidity of football, I think that when City click, they really click. Same with Arsenal. Obviously, Chelsea are kind of on a rampage at the moment, whereas United are like getting results, but like trudging over the line a little bit. Now they're still doing very well. Like, you know, we can't have too high expectations. Again, you forget that they're a team that hasn't been in the league a huge amount of time. I think it's just because of the good run that last year, it set higher expectations. But a lot of that again was due to maybe Arsenal's inconsistency, that we kept sneaking up ahead of them. And
so maybe stole some of your best players,
and could potentially continue to do so. So, the way the top three are sitting at the moment, and the way Man United are playing, I do think I'm finding it hard to see them breaking through.
No, that is fair. And you mentioned Liverpool there, big win for them against Brighton, 4-0. It was like a very nice vibe sort of a match. Like, I know I'm supposed to look at these from like a technical thing, but you got Gemma Bonner getting her plaque beforehand for, you know, most appearances for Liverpool, and then getting a goal, and then she had Van de Sanden. The same week that her baby was born, and everyone doing the little rocking baby thing to help celebrate with her. And I was just, and I really didn't expect, of all the teams this weekend, to capitulate in the way that they did. I really didn't expect it to be Brighton.
Yeah, Brighton they're a mad one. I don't know what they're making of Brighton, to be honest.
Well, I mean, when they were inconsistent before, we said it was Hope Powell, and we couldn't really work out why it was her. And then since she left, it doesn't seem like all that much has changed. Like, I mean, they had that massive win.
The team is so different.
Yeah. But like, then is it a mentality thing?
I don't know, like, how did they go from beating Man City and like drawing with Man United last month to then, well, I suppose if on paper they lost to Arsenal and they've now lost to Liverpool. So maybe we should just give kudos to Liverpool, but I don't know, they're a mad one. I feel like we just need to keep an eye on them because I don't know what's going to be coming next with them. But for Liverpool to bounce back from the heavy Chelsea defeat kind of shows a difference in them. I think this year they're direct and they're aggressive, and they're going to be nowhere near a relegation battle, I don't think. But they're going to be pushing based on what we're seeing. They're hard to beat, like they're hard to play against, and anyone like a Brighton or a Bristol, I don't think that they'll be able to come and pinch points off them the way they might have maybe targeted Liverpool for that last year.
Yeah, and it's also when you look at as well the level of injuries that Liverpool have had to contend with over the last year. So, you know, there's been some very key players. Like we've just seen Nifahi come back in after like several weeks out.
Yeah, and Leanne Kiernan, obviously brilliant for us. We love seeing that back. Yeah,
exactly.
It's huge for Liverpool. They're two massive players for them.
Yeah, and well, like when they came up for the WSL, everyone was like, Leanne Kiernan is gonna like blow this league apart, and she's just like had a really unfortunate run with injuries. But whenever she does play, she doesn't look like a player who has suffered as much time out as she actually has, which can only be.
She did really, really well for the fourth goal to set up Missy Kearns as well. So, again, maybe that'll just hopefully this is the turning point in terms of injuries and her getting her confidence back. I think we want to see a confident Leanne Kiernan coming in to camp when she's ready. But we don't want to push it too much because she has had such a long return to play. But she is someone obviously we would really, really love to see in a green jersey again.
100%. And then finally we have Everton 2, Aston Villa 1, 6th loss this season for Aston Villa. You would have thought with the kind of form they were kind of starting to find with Kenza Daly coming back, this is the sort of game they'd want to get something from. Heather Payne winning a penalty, Chrissy Hansen bringing her down, and you're just like, oh no, Chrissy, you're very important for this Aston Villa team, and the discipline has not been good this season.
Yeah, and because she set up Daly really well for that finish, and you kind of thought, they went a goal down, and earlier in the season that would have maybe signalled a loss, but because they maybe turned a corner and Daly was back, and the duo of Daly and Daly is back, and then when Daly scored, obviously you think, okay, here we go. But Everton have a bit of grit about them, you know. Again, they're quite inconsistent, but they're inconsistent. But I mean, the mid-table kind of teams, I feel like they've a bit more grit about them this year than they did last year. There was probably too much chopping and changing last year for them to really settle into it. But we're seeing Courtney Brosnan and Heather Payne solid on the team sheet. That's important for us. And Villa had the majority of the possession. Like there was no really excuse for Villa to not put in a better display or put Everton under more pressure than they did, given they had over 60% of the possession. But that momentum that we thought they'd pick up has stalled a little bit. So I don't know. It's hard to know what to make of Aston Villa at the moment. They shouldn't be where they are, given the talent that they have.
No, definitely not. And it shouldn't have been that one key player being missing for a couple of games that kind of made everything fall apart quite as much as it did. But interesting one to see what they do in the January transfer window. Karen, thank you very much. As always, we survived.
We survived all by ourselves.
All by ourselves. We don't even have anyone monitoring us or telling us that we're talking silly things. So I think this is very impressive, since producer Catherine is also away at the moment. But thank you very much. Might see you in Tala on Friday at some stage. And if not, enjoy the international break.
I will.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening. If you want to talk to us about any of your thoughts or opinions on my team of the week, on our analysis, on the upcoming international break, and who you think is going to be the new Ireland manager, because I was hearing rumours today there's going to be someone before Christmas, so that will be interesting if that is the case. You can get them into us at the COYGIG Pod on Twitter. But for now, thank you very, very much for listening.
The COYGIG Pod on Off the Ball, in association with Cadbury, official snack partner of the Republic of Ireland women's national team.